haven't guessed this character by now. Do you even know Mahabharata? Just kidding. But seriously, do you need a primer? Namo Namaha friends. I am RRK. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about something a little bit different from my usual bookish content. That is Enneagram. What we will do is try to map Mahabharata characters and their personalities to the Enneagram personality type. So, what is Enneagram? According to Wikipedia, Enneagram is a system of personality typing that describes patterns in how people interpret the world and manage their emotions. Enneagram is widely used in corporate and Western spirituality contexts. I stumbled upon the Enneagram thing when I was binge watching booktuber videos, and I came across a video by Kayla from Books and Lala where she was reading books based on her Enneagram type. And then I also came across another video by Katie from Katie Olson, who was recommending books based on different Enneagram types. That got me curious, so I took the Enneagram test, and since then I have been falling deep into the Enneagram rabbit hole. I needed an outlet for my Enneagram obsession because I'm literally reading different kinds of books on Enneagram. I'm also following loads and loads of content creators in Instagram who routinely post lots of content on Enneagrams and the different personality types. It's such a joy to read about your type, about the types of your loved ones. It gives a glimpse into who you might be, a glimpse into who your loved ones might be, and it might help you interact with them better. Now that I'm obsessed with it, I thought, why not extend it to my favorite characters in Mahabharata? Because Mahabharata characters are an intrinsic part of my life. They are not just mythology for us, they are itihasa, which means history. So they lived and walked on this line. So when I tried finding out what Enneagram types my family members could be, my friends could be, I naturally extended that analysis to the Mahabharata characters as well. Let's do this together. If this sounds interesting to you guys, then please do leave a flower emoji in the comment section below. Now, I'm not going into the genesis, history, or the usage of the Enneagram because there are loads of content online if you would like to check that out. But I will start this video with an intro on the Enneagram types. So, Enneagram is a personality test. According to Enneagram, human psyche can be divided into 9 different personality types, and each type has its core, fear and desire, and a person's reaction or response to any situation according to Enneagram depends on their personality type and also the core desires and fears that drives them. Not only that, there are layers to the personality types as well. Like each personality type can have wings, that is influences from adjacent types. Also, every personality can integrate or disintegrate into a different type based on the situation. For example, if a type 3 is faced with a nurturing and comforting situation, then they can take on the best qualities from a type 6. Whereas if a type 3 is faced with a situation where they are being cornered, then they may disintegrate and take on the worst qualities of the type 6. This is not to say that a particular type is good or bad. It's just that when a person is faced with adverse situations, he may show the worst qualities of another type, and if he is faced with a situation that he can handle or thrive, then he may take on the best characteristics from another type. But let's not complicate things. Enneagram is a very vast topic and human psyche is even more so. So let's keep the premise of this particular video very simple. I'll be analyzing the Mahabharata characters based on the 9 Enneagram personality types. I hope that sounds good to you. Let me put out some disclaimers first. First is that I'm not including Lord Krishna, Lord Balarama and Sri Vedavyasa in the character list because they are not mere humans to be categorized in any type. They define the spectrum, they are the spectrum, so they can't obviously be contained within it. The other characters are also Devamshas, but in the Itihasas, they have been known to display certain flaws. So I'm okay to be working with that. The second disclaimer is that I am not an expert in Enneagram, so if I am wrong somewhere, kindly please do correct me in the comment section below, or you can DM me in my socials. I'll be working on correcting them. Also, I must say I know as much about Mahabharata as the average Hindu. The stories and anecdotes have been passed down to me by way of oral tradition from grandmother to grandchild, so it is an intrinsic part of who I am. But if you have a different picture of Mahabharata or of those characters in your mind, then please don't mind me, and let's be respectful of each other and of each other's stories and of our love for the characters. Third point is that I am aware that I am viewing the Itihasa from a modern standpoint, so that could lead to flawed conclusions. Yes, the times were different, the people had different psyches in those days, so our modern viewpoint might not hold any weight, but Mahabharata being Mahabharata, it's still a timeless story. The flaws that were displayed in those times have not vanished. People are still greedy, people still need love and compassion, people still fear certain things and they still display anger. None of these things have changed, and that encourages me to go ahead with this exercise. Treat this as a personal opinion and a fun experiment, nothing more, nothing less. Now that we are getting into the analysis of the Mahabharata characters based on the Enneagram personality types, I wanted to make a game out of it. So what I will be doing is I have a roulette wheel in my tablet. I will be spinning that wheel, and whichever number comes first, based on the number, I will be talking about each personality type and which character from Mahabharata I think suits that number. Yeah, so let's start with the spin. Type 7, who's an enthusiast. So an enthusiast's core desire is to be satisfied, and they need to be cared for. Their fear is on missing out, and their weakness is gluttony because they feel nothing is ever enough. The character I think suits perfectly for this type is Pavanputra Bhima. He was king size in everything. He was a person who couldn't be contained within the limits of normalcy. On his journey towards Swarga, he fell off and died, and Yudhishthira said that was because of his gluttony. That he had this habit of overeating and not being considerate toward others when it came to food. So this gluttony had also led him to be poisoned by Duryodhana at one point in time. So Bhima showed us how to live life to the fullest. He is a classic type 7. Next is type 2. Type 2s are the helpers. So their core desire is to feel appreciated and loved. They need to be loved and cared for. They need to feel wanted. And their major fear is to be rejected, and their weakness is pride. They think they are the only ones who can help others. So does it ring any bells? If you haven't guessed this character by now, do you even know Mahabharata? Just kidding. But seriously, do you need a primer? Here again, I have two names. One is Kunti and Karna. So Kunti is an epitome of helper. She was always a partner. Even when Madri left the world with Pandu, Kunti stayed back to take care of her beloved kids. She suffered incredibly throughout her life, but her love for her kids never wavered. Kunti is an example of a healthy two. So healthy twos integrate or evolve into a type 4 who can be self-nurturing and self-aware, but unhealthy twos, they can disintegrate into type 8 where they can be brash and controlling. That's one of the reasons why I think Karna is a type 2, because he was rejected his whole life and he always wanted to be part of the Kshatriya clan, but his mother rejected him, his guru rejected him, Bhishma detested him, only Duryodhana accepted him. And because Duryodhana accepted him, he helped him beyond reason. His pride came into the picture, so he thought himself to be indispensable to Duryodhana, and he couldn't cut himself off him even when he knew his friend was wrong. So Karna was also known for his generosity, he was loyal and was a stand-up friend to the only person who accepted him. So I think Karna is a classic type 2. Next, type 5. Type 5 are investigators. So I feel type 5s are the classic introverts. I know it's not true. Not all introverts are type 5s and not all type 5s are introverts. But when you think of type 5, introvert is the impression that you get. A type 5's core desire is to be competent and they need themselves to matter. They fear having too many obligations that they cannot handle to be placed upon them, and their weakness is stinginess or avarice. So they hold back certain things because they feel they will need it sometime later, or they feel they don't have enough of it. So the characters I think fit this description are Sahadeva and Dhritarashtra. I think Sahadeva and Dhritarashtra are type 5 characters because Dhritarashtra was overwhelmed with responsibilities that he couldn't handle. He wanted to be competent despite being blind. As a king, he wanted his opinions to matter, but he fell short of his responsibilities as he was never ever prepared for it. Sahadeva, Yudhishthira's counselor, was wise and extremely introverted person. He was known to not speak unless spoken to. He fits the type 5 description perfectly, or so I think. Let's move on to the next number. Type 1s are the reformers. So a reformer's core desire is to be having integrity and virtue. So they have this need to always be good. They fear being perceived to be wrong or evil, and their weakness is anger or resentment. So they hold that anger in, and that leads to frustration. I choose Bhishma and Yudhishthira to be type 1s in Mahabharata. Yudhishthira, as you guys know, was an epitome of integrity and honesty. He could sacrifice anything except his honor and his squeaky clean image. Bhishma was known for his terrible oath, an oath he stood by under all circumstances. But in his quest to be right, he sometimes did terrible things. His kidnapping fiasco, Amba's Vrat, is an example of how Bhishma's rigid stance to be right at all times had unintended and often devastating consequences. His need to be good sometimes overshadowed his duties as a patriarch. Draupadi's Vastraharana and the war itself were examples of his helplessness and dharma sankata. So I think both Yudhishthira and Bhishma were type 1. Now let's move on to the next number. On to type 9. Type 9s are peacemakers. Their core desire is to have peace of mind and they need their presence to matter. They fear conflict and tension, also loss of connection with people due to conflict. They have this weakness of inaction. So they might not respond or react when it is needed. When they are supposed to act, they might not act. And this is considered to be a weakness. So for this, I choose Vidura because Vidura is one of the most underrated characters of Mahabharata. He's also one of my favorite. Vidura Niti is one of the most sought out literature on statecraft to this day. He counseled Dhritarashtra to the best of his abilities till the end. I find the calm, quiet, kind, and peace loving Vidura to be a classic type 9. I'm not sure he displayed any of the weakness that a typical type 9 might display, but he did display a type 9's desire to have peace of mind and have their presence matter. He was indispensable to Dhritarashtra both as a brother and as a counselor. Let's move on to the next number. Type 8s are the challengers. A challenger's core desire is to protect himself and his family. They feel the need to be trusting, to be trusted, and to not be betrayed. They fear being weak, powerless, or being controlled. Their weakness is lust because they desire to have control over self and over others as well. I feel type 8 is the Scorpio of Enneagrams. Among all sun signs, Scorpios are the most misunderstood ones. My guess, type 8 could be the most misunderstood Enneagram. I think Shakuni is a type 8. I am basing this on the story I have heard about him in my childhood. Apparently, Shakuni's brothers were jailed by Dhritarashtra and his family, and they all starved to death. Only Shakuni was spared, and he vowed vengeance on Dhritarashtra's family. That is told to be the reason why he poisoned Duryodhana against the Pandavas. It's also said that his dice, which he could control as he wished, was made out of the bones of his dead brothers. Some say this is not a story in the original Mahabharata and that it was added later as a part of the common lore. I'm not sure about it, but if this story has any merit at all, then Shakuni's loyalty to his family and his conniving skills make him a sure candidate for type 8. Let's move on to the next number. Type 6, the loyalist. A loyalist's core desire is to be supported and to be secure. Their main fear is fear itself, and their weakness is anxiety and constant worry. Character I think fits type 6 is Draupadi. Draupadi had a tragic life like no other. She was born to a powerful king. She was a sister to a courageous brother and wife to not one but 5 illustrious men. None could protect her honor when it mattered. Lord Krishna had to intervene to save her. Her need to feel safe were never met, and this woman without a mother never felt safe and supported. Despite being put in a situation where she had to face her fear again and again, she was loyal and supportive towards her husbands, her brother, her father, and sons. When type 6s integrate, they show the best characteristics of type 9. I think Draupadi was a very healthy type 6. Next is type 3, who are the achievers. Type 3's core desire is to be successful and to be admired. And they especially need to be loved for who they are. They fear being worthless or unsuccessful, and their weakness is deceit or vanity because they apparently deceive themselves and others to maintain a certain image of themselves. This type was a little difficult for me. Eventually, I zeroed in on Drona and Nakula. Drona, though a Brahmin, displayed Kshatriya characteristics. He came from a very poor background and he wanted to be appreciated and seen for his skills and knowledge. He wanted to be the best guru, the best warrior, and he achieved all of this through the gurus. But again, he always strived to maintain a certain image of himself rather than being true to his natural self. Also, Nakula, the fourth Pandava, seems to be a type 3, mainly because of his vanity. So, in the last part of Mahabharata, when the Pandavas along with Draupadi begin their journey towards heavens, Nakula falls off and dies. So, Yudhishthira says that's because of his vanity. Because despite his best qualities of bravery and wisdom, he was always a little vain about his beauty, and that's the reason why he fell and he couldn't go to the heavens. This is the story I know of Nakula. So I thought he fit the characteristics of a type 3 perfectly. Type 4s are individualists. The core desire of a type 4 is to be authentic and unique. They need to be special, especially on their own merit. They fear being defective or flawed. Their weakness is supposed to be envy. That is, they feel others have what they do not have. So there are two characters that I choose for type 4. One is Arjuna and the other one is Duryodhana. Now, I had the most fun figuring out this type, especially coming up with a reason that's even half sensible. If you notice, Arjuna is an interesting character not only because he was considered a friend by Lord Krishna, but also because of his position as the third Pandava. Arjuna is the son of Lord Indradev, the king of gods. So being third in position must have been rough on him. Yudhishthira, being the eldest, naturally must have received all the fame and respect because he had a position as the eldest brother and also as the king, and also he had impeccable character. The second thing is Bhima. Bhima was a force of nature. He couldn't have been insignificant even if he had tried to be in physique, mental prowess or character. He was unsurpassed. He could have been noticed even in a huge crowd. He stood out, period. Now imagine being a brother to such stalwarts. How will you differentiate yourself? How will you stand on your own and earn fame? I think Arjuna is a definite type 4, as he must have wanted to be unique and authentic throughout his life. He would have wanted to set himself apart all the time. I also sometimes imagine how difficult it must have been for him to set himself apart if Karna indeed had been revealed as the eldest brother during his lifetime. Arjuna was special because of his archery, but we all know that Karna was apparently the only one who could have defeated him. If Karna had been acknowledged as the eldest brother, would Arjuna have been the greatest? That's something that we need to think about. So I think Arjuna was a type 4 and individualist. I also think Duryodhana was a type 4 because his envy was legendary. He especially detested Bhima for his prowess. He had to forfeit the kingdom to Yudhishthira because he was the eldest, and always he had to be second to Bhima in all aspects. It must have rankled him non-stop because him being a type 4, as I think, he would have always wanted to be authentic and unique, and he would have felt envy despite him having everything. He constantly felt that they had something that he doesn't have. So I think Duryodhana is also a type 4. So that's the long and short of my analysis of Mahabharata characters based on their Enneagram types. What do you think? Do you agree with me, or do you have a completely different set of characters for each Enneagram types? Do let me know in the comment section below. I would be thrilled to discuss with you guys. I post content on reading challenges, book tags, reviews and recommendations every single week. If bookish content like mine is your jam, then please like my videos, subscribe to my channel, and yes, don't forget to press the bell icon for notifications. Looking forward to sharing more of my bookish thoughts with you. Let's keep the bookish conversation going. Until then, stay safe, healthy. Om Shanti.